What are we waiting for?
Trust me, babe, you're gonna love it in here. Well, what do you think?
What vile magic is this?
What up, gamers? I'm Aaron, and today I'm issuing a code red for all tryhard gamers. That's right, it's over for us in 2026. We had a good run, mythic mounts, elite sets, and more, but there's a new frontier of flexing, housing, and unfortunately, us raiders don't stand a chance. Even if by some miracle you do seduce that holy priest, there's no way she's staying once she sees that your gaming PC is just 10 feet from your kitchen sink. But just how bad is it? Today I'm visiting the neighborhood of my new guild to get to ground zero of this new crisis. It is critical we find at least one house good enough to cement our elite status. The ecosystem is out of balance, and if the casuals have a leg up on us, then they may treat us the way that we've treated them, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So let's get to the bottom of this. I headed straight to the streets of Founders Point, where I was met with a chilling discovery. By now, people have had weeks to set up their houses, but in this neighborhood, almost half of them were either completely undecorated or locked to all visitors. A generous man might give them the benefit of the doubt, but not me. I see through them, because I am them. An unlocked house to a raider is like 3 bolts hitting you with no defensive. They are afraid to let me in, because they're afraid that I'll see them for what they are, a housing noob. So safe to say, all of these locked houses were not getting the seal of approval, but special shout out to player Swivel, who went above and beyond in the arena of shitty housing. And that's because despite claiming his spot in the neighborhood planner, he still has not built his house 3 weeks later, making the rest of us in this little cul-de-sac look like a couple of assholes who can't find a 4th friend. Now obviously not every house was locked, but most everything I'd come across was decorated in one of 2 ways. Either it was like Kaba's plot here, where they treat it like their first college dorm room. They just put up 2 decorations that they like and pretend they've got a nice place to live. Or it was more like Kraut's plot here, which had a nice outside, but then on the inside just threw every decoration they possibly could into a cramped space with no thought for theme or making sense. One house actually managed to be worse than locked. Salmer's plot here contained nothing other than a cramped maze that served no purpose other than to just piss me off and protect 2 fireplaces. So far, I had still not seen anything that gave me any hope whatsoever, but I couldn't just admit defeat. I decided to start smaller. I was gonna begin with just my next door neighbors. I live in a small cul-de-sac of just 3 houses, and going through our little cluster comes off to an alright start with Coda Fister's plot. He's got a neat little outside, there's market stalls, there's plenty of trees, but he's also got an outhouse, which is making us look very low class. See, usually you associate outhouses with either the Horde or humans who can't afford WoW tokens, but I'm gonna let it slide for now because we're all new to this. Inside, you've got a neat little room, tables, bookshelves, everything you need to be comfortable, and if you go through into the next hallway, you've got 2 options. On the right, it goes to a sort of odd toilet apparatus, which I guess makes up for the outhouse, but I don't know why it needed its own hallway. And on the other hand, you come up to a mysteriously empty bedroom. But I gotta say, there's been a lot of good memories in here. Anyway, while I wish I could say that our little group of houses only gets better from there, next up is Footjoblock's house. This is completely untouched on the outside, and the inside is rocking the total square footage of a Hong Kong apartment. But you're probably wondering, what about my house? Well, I'll tell you. I wouldn't be looking for inspiration if my house was any sort of inspiring. But I've got a pretty nice piece of land, and you might think I haven't touched the outside, but you couldn't be more wrong. See, over here is actually the pile of leaves where I sleep every night. But enough of me bragging. Let me show you the inside. Yeah, I know. What the hell am I looking at? The decor makes no sense, and this door isn't even placed the right way. But hey, doors are hard. No amount of house tutorials or even one-on-one coaching sessions have been able to help me.
It is actually incredible that you can fuck up placing a door.
Did you say I did incredible? I guess raiders just can't make houses, right? But there is one room I'm proud of, and that's this one here. my shrine room. Looks pretty good, right? But what divine muse could have inspired such a beauty? Well, my YouTube member, of course. But enough about my house, because if we go any deeper down the hallway, it's just gonna make us sad. So maybe everything we've seen up to now was mid at best. But I do want to give the raiders some credit. It's not all bad out here. See, I actually flew into Big's house here when I was drunken cry-flying through Founder's Point. He's got a neat little treehouse thing going on, and if you head inside, you're greeted by a very nice hallway with some beautiful leaves. But it opens into a very weirdly empty, really large space. You'll find in the back here a sort of concealed bedroom which, while being very purple, is also very cozy. So maybe it's not a complete house, but things were looking a lot better outside of the cul-de-sac. And it's at that point that I began to notice a bit of a pattern. The closer I got to the beach, the nicer houses began to get. The rich assholes that gravitated towards the beachfront property were able to build these beautiful mansions. Meanwhile, I had mistakenly reserved a plot in the Appalachian meth lands. So I began to take my investigation closer towards the coast. If I was gonna find any hope, it was gonna be there. And so the next house I came across was on plot number 5, belonging to Shatterek. When this guy's not making Wowhead guides or making fun of how long it takes me to make a YouTube video, he's usually farming lumber. Seriously, this guy is always farming lumber. Every time I open his stream, you know what? It's not important. All that lumber's gotta go somewhere. So surely his house is gonna be up to par. I step inside and I'm not gonna lie. Shatterek's house may be a teeny, tiny, very small bit better than mine. Inside, straight through, you've got this quaint little meeting room, whose only sin is that the fireplace reminds me Shrine of the Storm existed. And on either side, you've got a pretty bare-bones staircase that leads up to the master bedroom area. And it's up here that I want to talk about a little housing trend that I've begun to notice. These extendable privacy walls are everywhere, in everybody's house, and I don't know what it is about them, but they always give me the impression that if I walk past this thing, I'm gonna see some fucked up shit I should not be seeing. I don't know what kind of freak-offs go down in the Shatterek gamer house, but for you guys, and to complete my mission, I decided to be brave. On the other side was just a bedroom with almost no baby oil to be found. So now that I could let my guard down, it was safe to say that reviewing a solid 6 out of 10 house gave me some hope that we might be getting somewhere. But that hope wouldn't last long. I made the mistake of riding a rare mount to the next house, and immediately I was pelted by empty glass bottles thrown by a roving band of casuals. This Code Red situation was getting worse fast, and I needed to act quick. You might think that this is just me being an elitist asshole, but that's because you don't understand the gravity of this situation. Casual players are like the Scourge if ghouls had 8 kids and could only play 1 dungeon on weekends. Without their 1% overlords, they will run rampant across the world, attacking any shred of elitism until eventually they begin to devour their own. If I was to save this world, I needed to find a good house, so I immediately sought shelter at Shatterek's next door neighbor, Julie. Now at Julie's house, a very nice garden area surrounded the entirety of the plot, and the patio area was very welcoming, despite the fact that my dwarf just kind of phases through any couch-like object. Inside was a Pandaren-themed dining area that looked straight out of Kunlai. It immediately took me right back to being a dumbass kid in Mists of Pandaria, or even a dumbass adult in Mists of Pandaria Remix. In the back room, there was even a very Karazhan-esque floating library, and sure, it looks good, but Julie is a healer, so I'm not even really sure she qualifies as a raider, and one time, she let me die while solo healing my side of Demencius, so I can't really just say that this house looks good. We're gonna have to just keep moving. After the last 2 houses, I was feeling a bit better. Maybe us raiders can pull off some basic housing, but if we don't want roleplayers to cyberbully us out of our favorite game, we were gonna have to show that we could do something high concept. So I headed down to the Founder's Point beachfront, where once you can conquer the housing system's incredible object pop-in, you are greeted by Dump's imposing rock golem. See, this is World of Warcraft. We're not here to live in a 19th century modern. Dump is a fucking shaman, and if he wants to live on top of a giant rock man, he should be able to. You may notice, however, that Dump is a very irresponsible owner in the fact that he chose not to get his golem neutered, so it's pretty likely that in a few years, our island will be overrun with these assholes. But heading inside, we do see that Dump is one of the few brave ones who chose not to do human and night elf architecture for everything they ever do. He's got a dirty-ass rock fountain, and I'm sure that's exactly how he likes it. The shaman theme continues with two paths upstairs. You've got the restoration-themed life grotto, and then the very stormy wind tunnel cavern to the right. You might think that Dump was doing great so far, and I did too, until I saw his next colossal failure. Look at this! This is why casuals don't take us seriously. My character cannot run up the stairs without jumping. This shit would never fly in another neighborhood. But for us, the expectations are so low that I've got to just review the rest of his house anyway. I follow the cave up to the next step of this elemental theme, which is these cool little lava pools. It looks good, I'm not gonna lie. And I know it's rude to point out the size of another man's throne, but I couldn't help but wonder if this one was maybe a bit too small. To the left, he does have a very frightening looking torture area. Or at least I thought it was a torture area until I saw just how excited Dump was to hop inside one of his own cages. But anyway, back outside. Maybe you saw Dump's rock golem and you thought, man, this would be way cooler if he had a giant rock penis. Dump's neighbor Baz thought the same. And you might have an issue with this, because A, golems don't have sex, and B, it's tacky. To that I'd say, how do you explain the video I watched last night? And yeah, anywhere else on the island, this would be tacky. But these two actually live next to Guild Officer XMAB. And when you live next to someone in a leadership position, it is your right, no, your responsibility to make things as difficult and uncomfortable for them as possible. That's what being a raider is all about. So let's head down the street and check out Officer XMAB's house. Immediately, you are greeted with paved pathways, fountains, gazebos, outdoor dining, anything you associate with fancy living, it's here. I went inside and made sure not to disturb the residents, as even they were filming content you might associate with a Florida mansion. If you come to the left here, there was a beautiful dining hall, which is where all of the guild parties that I always hear about but have never been invited to take place. But on the other side, to the right, I was pleasantly surprised by a full suite bathroom with a jacuzzi and a functioning toilet. In over 10 years of playing this game, my character has never sat on a toilet. He has been backed up for a decade. This was beautiful. I even found a hidden Xalatath shrine. Could this be the house we were looking for? I wanted to say it was, but I couldn't be sure. I decided to head back home and finish up tomorrow. But there were so many thoughts in my head on the ride home from XMABs. I kept thinking about that door that I fucked up placing. All of my guildmates placed doors just fine. And about halfway back home, I passed a house that I realized I had still not checked. It belonged to a raider named Shade, and on top was a big-ass spider, and this would have been so cool in October. But 3 months after Halloween, it was not inspiring confidence. I walked inside and took a right. Immediately, I was stopped in my tracks with a chapel so beautiful it would bring the toughest of paladins to tears. I took a seat, and as I observed from the pews, I wondered, maybe the reason that my house sucks isn't because I'm a raider. Maybe the reason my house sucks is because I suck at housing. Yeah, I think that's right. PvE nerds, we're gonna be okay in Midnight. And I know you're thinking that's not possible. That's not possible, Aaron. You are the best WoW player of all time. I know. Normally, I wouldn't even be able to entertain this possibility. But Razzun in 2026 is impressively humble. That's right, the mage you know and love is even better in 2026, and yeah, he still can't build a house, but he can show you how to unlock those fancy midnight decorations like Xalatath Foot Trophy, even if he can't place them. So once you've finished commenting about how watching this video was the worst part of your year so far, feel free to check out some of my other, more useful content, where I'll whip you up into someone who destroys all of Midnight's toughest content. And I'll be back in your YouTube subscription feed faster than you can possibly imagine. But until then, I'm Aaron, and thanks so much for your time. Peace. Alright, Aaron, you can do this. Just breathe.